really do. You're a 21-year-old punk fucking kid. Grandpa's given you everything all your fucking life. You've never had a car payment, a house payment. Everything you live in was given to you by Grandpa. You fucking don't know what it's like to work for a fucking living like I do, to bust my fucking ass and do what I do. And you know what, Shawn? You fucked me, and that's the way you got it. But you know what? Your grandpa's money will run out someday, and you'll have to feast for yourself. Get a fucking job, you piece of shit.
Welcome to Behind the Smoke Podcast, Barbecue War Stories. I am Luben Walchef from Cali Comfort BBQ, and we are recording with my man Derek Marso from Valley Farm Market. And we are in Texas.
We are here.
Texas.
Yeehaw.
What are we here for?
Dude, this is a really, really exciting event for us. I mean, this is something we've looked forward to for a while now. And this National Barbecue Association, they put this on. It's exciting, man. It's my first time here, not in Texas, but at this event. And we talk about it a lot. But, you know, events like this are what excite us about this industry, just events in general, and getting everybody together and seeing people you haven't seen for a long time. It's just incredibly exciting.
Yeah, I think for those of you tuning in for the first time on Facebook Live or to the podcast, Derek and I were very fortunate to be in this position to talk about barbecue, to talk about business, digital marketing. Every week we put out this podcast on Friday. It comes out at 3:59 a.m. Pacific time. And we just share our entrepreneurial struggle. We share the things. The voicemail in the beginning was a former business partner of mine. Business isn't always what you see on television, all the sexy stuff.
Yeah, it's not those rainbows and butterflies that everyone posts on Instagram. It's tough, it's hard, it's grinding, but it's hands down some of the most rewarding things you'll ever do in life. I mean, to be able to experience people that come out and have your food and you feed them and say it's, you know, the best they've ever had, and they want to bring their family and they become so vested in you. It's a movement that I'm proud to be a part of. Yeah,
it's very, very humbling. And today we set this up. So in 2012, Cali Comfort BBQ, thanks to Goycochea, our barbecue mentor, he got us on this barbecue bus tour when the National Barbecue Association, they came out to San Diego. And they came out to San Diego. They came out to, they went on a bus tour to Coop's. They went to Phil's. They went to Abby's. They went to Brazen, our buddy Brazen, John Brackmonte. And then they came out to Cali Comfort. And, you know, it was a bus full of probably 45 barbecue business owners, pit masters, people from all over the country. And we were just so humbled to meet the team from 17th Street Barbecue, Mike Mills, Amy Mills. You know, you guys left a huge impression on us. Just the time that you took to talk to me, to talk to my wife, to talk to my brother who was running our pit, to tell us your story. That was something that, you know, forever changed the way that we look at the industry. And, you know, we were so young back then. We're still young, even though, you know, 10 years, Cali Comfort will be, in April, we'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary. They kind of feel like dog years. It's, you know, it's like they're very extended, but we appreciate the time that you took. We appreciate the National Barbecue Association for coming out to San Diego to see what was going on the West Coast, to try our tri-tip. But then now to come full circle to be out here at the National Barbecue Association, NBBQA 2018, Amy Mills, Mike Mills from 17th Street, the legends. Mike, a Hall of Famer. Amy, we are so humbled to have you here today, and we're very excited to talk barbecue, talk about your journey, both of your journeys, and give us a little bit of insight into the world of 17th Street Barbecue. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
It is truly our pleasure. So tell us a little bit about the 17th Street story.
Go ahead.
Well, 17th Street really encompasses my dad's whole life, but officially started in 1985 when he bought a bar and grill that has been in operation for over 100 years. And for over 100 years, they have served a barbecue, sandwich, and a hamburger.
Is that right?
And when I was little, you know, you couldn't go in the bar because it was a bar. So it was really mostly just men, not even really any women. But there's a drive-through, and you could pull through the drive-through and take home bags of barbecues or bags of hamburgers. And the drive-through has no menu. It's just a doorbell, and you pull up and ring the doorbell and tell them what you want. And it's actually still that way today. There's pretty much locals use the drive-through. You just have to know what you want.
Know what you want,
but now
sure.
you can order a steak or a much more extensive meal from the drive-through versus a burger or a ham or a barbecue. But in the mid to late 80s, my dad and a group of friends started a barbecue contest. And really in an effort to drive some economic development in our town. You know, we're a town of 7,000 people. Walmart came in and really destroyed the charming downtown that we had. And
Sure.
really things have, been on a downhill slide. So they very quickly figured out that in order to get people to come to our contest, they decided they would form a team and go and compete in contests, and then they would be able to tell other people about what was happening in Murphysboro. And very quickly they started winning really big. So they were bit by the bug. So not only are they contest organizers, but they became the winningest team in history. And at this point, many more teams have won more contests than Apple City Barbecue, but nobody has come out of the gate and won the way they did.
So was 17th Street the name before you guys started?
17. What we bought was called Allen Ray's.
Okay.
There was a famous bumper sticker in town, and you can still see one on a very old cars.
Nice.
It said, if your wife drives you to drink, have her drive you to Allen Ray's. But in the early
good.
part of the century, it was called Ellis Tavern. So it's had 3 or 4 owners in its lifetime. But always since it was Ellis Tavern, there has been, a barbecue and a hamburger.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about competing on the tour. Did you compete at all?
I did not compete on the tour, so I will leave that to you.
Well, as we competed on the tour from 90 to 94. And technically speaking, my partner in that venture, Pat Burke, sometimes we'd go by ourselves, sometimes there'd be 20 people. It just all depends. Anybody could be on the team. We did it as a community thing. We didn't think anything about what was, actually happening at that point in time, other than it brought, during that weekend in Murphysboro, it filled the hotels. We only had one.
Yeah.
But it filled it up in Carbondale, and, it became a very big event for Murphysboro. It still is to this day. Were both contests, the KCBS, the Memphis in May, and also the steak contest is what the numbers on that are the letters.
SCA.
Yeah, State Cook-Off Association.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, we still fill the hotels, but there's not a hotel anymore. It finally fell down.
Oh, really?
It's one of these
no.
things.
We're getting a new
We're
one,
talking
though.
about small town
17th
USA.
Street one? Is it going to be called 17th?
Well, you said 7,000 people. I mean, I had 7,000 people in my high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
So, I mean, if you're, that's,
Oh,
that's
wow.
a small
you
town.
know where I'm coming from.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So this was a big deal, and it still is a big deal. I think the most teams that we've ever had has been 96, I believe.
96
Over the
teams.
period
That's
of years.
huge.
That's huge.
That's a huge turnout.
Yeah.
Yes. Very big, especially for small town USA.
Absolutely. I mean, we're in San Diego, and we have contests, and we can't get 96.
No, we're not there yet.
We like to be like 75 teams.
That's
sort of the
that's-
sweet
that's
spot.
where
That's where we like to be. That's
Right.
very manageable.
Sure.
It lets you get around and talk to each team and not feel so spread out.
Yeah. So talk about the birth of the contest and how it's progressed over the years. Because one of the things, the contest, because of the Spring Valley contest, this amateur barbecue contest, that's why we became a barbecue restaurant. I asked Gene, how do you put on a barbecue contest? And he had a KCBS background. He came and he helped because he cared about charity. He cared about giving back. And, he met with Derek and I went over to Derek, the local butcher, and asked, would you be the meat sponsor? And for us, without that contest, we wouldn't be sitting here today. I mean, barbecue became, it was in our blood, but now it's what we do. It's hospitality, it's giving back, it's promoting amateur barbecue. It's a platform for teams to come and compete so that they can, if they get the bug, they want to start competing in KCBS.
So was yours KCBS or
It
it's
wasn't,
still?
no, yeah.
But now is it?
No, it's
No,
the
it's
one
still
that we do
amateur.
is still amateur, yeah. So, but
The amateur one. We have a KCBS one in Del Mar that's obviously
yeah,
KCBS.
that one's
So
not
different
not
one.
at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So tell us just about the challenges, I guess, in growing the contest from the early years to where it is now.
Well, ours started out as an MBN sanctioned contest, and the KCBS, MBN started before KCBS, and MBN is 3 pork items. So you can cook ribs, pork, shoulder, or now you can just cook a butt, and whole hog. And what's unique about that is that you could roll up and just cook ribs and win the whole thing. So if you finaled in ribs and then you got the highest point of all those 9 finalists, like 3 from ribs, 3 from pork, 3 from hog, you would win. So you didn't have to do all categories like you do in KCBS. It's just a little bit of a different animal. And then, there's the showmanship part of that is the on-site judging, where you really get to chat with the judges and talk about that. And, you hear a lot of people who mistakenly think that is what wins it for you. But, a contest is always won in the blind box. Right. Yeah. And the blind box can't talk. Right. So you have to win blind. You could do great outside and tank inside, and you're not going to win. Right. So I feel like I'm always trying to dispel that myth that people have about it. But the MBN, Memphis and May, quit sanctioning contests, and then a different group was formed to administer those contests called Memphis Barbecue Network. And there are just not as many of those contests now. It's a more expensive way to compete. You would have to cook as though you were cooking for your blind box turn in and your first round of judging. And then you would cook as though you were going to be in finals too, because if you got the call that you were in finals, you needed to have another set of meat ready to go for that.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. But that's all we knew. And, we probably had at the most ever maybe a 40-team contest, but it started dwindling. We were really one of the few MBN contests above Memphis. So they're really heavily more in, south of us. So we decided to join up also with KCBS, and we had the first ever dual sanctioned contest. And we staggered the cooking time so that if you were cooking ribs for MBN, you might, for KCBS, you might as well pay and enter and turn in those MBN ribs too. You might win. And the same with pork. So you could really, every year we'll probably have 10 teams who will cook every category, which is kind of cool. And usually those teams have a lot more members.
And say that's a big thing to do. Right?
It is. It's a lot of work, but people do it, and they do really well. So it's interesting, and that has brought many more teams to our town. It's exposed those KCBS teams to MBN. The MBN people were already starting to cook KCBS, but most KCBSers were not cooking MBN. So it's we feel good about exposing them to a different type of contest and different rules, and we have a few people who have really caught on to that and like it a lot. And then this past year, 3 years ago, we added the steak component of that, because I think that's the next big thing in competition cooking. Yeah. You're one and done. You show up, they give you the meat, you bring your grill, your fuel source, some tongs, and some spices, and you're good to go.
Easier.
And you still have your weekend.
Yep.
So we do that on Friday night, and and again, we were sort of trying to get locals involved. A local person could come in and cook that contest as well. We're really trying to introduce more and more people to this sport, food sport.
Was that open for the public to see?
Yes.
The steak was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you're a team, you cooked at your cook site. Okay. But the steak people came too. And so we just put them all in a parking lot.
Okay.
And they cooked, and and then that introduced that group of people to a barbecue contest. So it's sort of cross-pollinating was what we're trying to do, and really get a lot of people interested in.
It gives them a little added value too.
Exactly.
It gives them a little bit more that they weren't exposed to earlier, and now they can see, this is actually kind of cool. We can do steaks,
exactly.
We can do a pork, we can turn in 2 pork things and maybe win. That's actually pretty cool for them.
Right. Right. So it's been a really good win-win-win all around, I think. And now we have a whole new set of steak cook-off friends.
How has sponsors been? Because being in such a small town, I'm sure you guys have come out of pocket significantly to support the event.
Well, it's a good thing we have a restaurant.
Yeah.
17th Street is the major sponsor of this. We have some good long-term sponsors. We don't have anyone who gives above $5,000, and we don't have very many of those. We have a lot of $500, $1,000 sponsors. We have a few who will give a little more than that. But what we have done that I think really involves the town is this thing that we call the Friend of the Barbecue. So for $125, and that will be going up this year, we have 2 evening events to try to have something for our town to get involved in. We have a big fish fry one night, and we have a Grand Champion buffet the next night. So they get 2 tickets to each of those events, and they get a T-shirt. We always have a great T-shirt that people want to wear and buy. That's key to get people out wearing your stuff. And that we will have about 1,500 people come through on Friday night, and about 800 people come through on Thursday night. So not everybody buys the sponsorship. Some people just pay at the door, but we get most of that food donated. So that helps us tremendously in, providing a prize purse because we pay out $25,000 that we split up between the 2 contests. So, and then obviously you just have all of your other expenses on top of that.
How many restaurants are you operating?
2 restaurants.
2 restaurants. How many employees?
92 employees.
92 total between the 2? Mm-hmm. Wow. That's a serious operation.
What do you got, 89 for one?
89 for one.
How many seats do you have?
We have 225.
Okay. So we have 250 seats in our Marion restaurant, and we have 90 in our Murphysboro restaurant. And then we have our event facility, and that's including the employees there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How often are you guys doing events?
Which kind of events?
Well, anytime. At the events?
Every week, every day.
Really?
So
I love it.
Every day.
Pretty much.
In our
We're always doing an event.
Exactly. At our warehouse, so across the street from our restaurant that seats 90 people, we have a building that's 30,000 square feet. And my uncle used to own that building. It was a catalog showroom. It actually, in the late 1800s, it was a grocery warehouse. So it was fruit and vegetable produce purveyor, wholesaler who was in there. So my uncle bought it in the 70s, and he ran a catalog showroom. So that was like basically everything Walmart sells, but one of each thing is sitting out on the floor, and upstairs are all the things. So little ladies would walk around and write down the numbers of what you wanted, and then it would come down on a conveyor belt. And you could buy your wedding ring there and register for your wedding china, and you could buy your toaster and your blender and your suitcase for your honeymoon, and had photographic equipment and health and beauty aids. It was just like a locally owned store like that. When that went out of business, when Walmart came into town and sat empty for a number of years before my dad bought it. So now it's 2 event rooms. One holds 300 people, and that can open up and accommodate another 150. Then a different room holds 70 people, and we have our catering kitchen there. We do all of our mail order. It's our office. So a lot of things happen in that building, and those rooms are rented all the time.
Wow, that's great.
How far out will you guys cater? I know Marion, in where you guys are at, it's smaller towns. Like I've been to Carbondale and Marion, and so how far out? If someone calls you and they're in I don't know, Tennessee, or how far out will you guys go?
The farthest we've gone probably is like New York City and Connecticut, and we do a lot in Chicago because people will come to SIU and meet and have their dates at 17th Street.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they'll come back there and get married, or they will want our food in Chicago. So we'll go all over the country.
I just was texting with my best friend Joey Metropoulos, who played for the Miners in Marion, and he was just telling me how much he just loves you guys. He's like, man, can you bring me back some of these ribs? I'm like, I can't. They don't have any with them right now, but we'll figure it out.
We always feed the Miners and for their kickoffs.
He just went back last year. He got inducted to the Hall of Fame and they retired his number at Marion, and then he did a home run derby against Jose Canseco, and he just beat Jose Canseco last year. He hadn't played in 7 years, and hadn't picked up a bat or anything. They asked him to come out and fly out for charity, so he flew out and went against Jose Canseco and beat him in a home run derby last year.
That's very
pretty
fun.
Cool. Yeah. So I love it out there.
So Mike, tell us a little bit about your Air Force One story. You've been fortunate to be the barbecue guy that has served the President of the United States.
Well, yes, and of course I had no clue and really wasn't putting quite together exactly what all was gonna happen. And of course I knew the President was gonna come to town. I had these Secret Service guys coming in about a week ahead of time before I knew what was happening. And of course they'd already checked everything out to see, that I wasn't some sort of a terrorist. The group around there wasn't going to poison. And there are certain rules that you had to go by, and we had to charge. We had to, you think, well, to get the president, I'll do it for nothing.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
But couldn't do that.
Oh, really? They had a minimum?
We had to charge them a fee.
Oh, yeah.
And all that food ended up being donated.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was donated to some of the churches in town and different groups. But then we prepared a barbecue meal for the both of them were barbecue actually, but then we cooked for the president.
What was the menu?
Ribs.
Baby backs or spares?
Baby backs.
Always baby
Always
backs.
baby backs. Always baby backs.
I've always cooked baby backs all my life. They're just a better rib. Don't misunderstand me. The other ones are good and they're awesome, but at the same time, a baby back is got the flavor.
Yeah, absolutely. It has a higher pH balance, and it's a far more tender piece of meat, anyways, with that fat content in it. It's great.
Right. You can just bring the flavor out in them. You still got the ribs, but they're much leaner, not near the fat content.
Right.
And I always say, it tastes more like a pork chop.
Yep.
Where the other ones taste, they taste like ribs.
Yeah. Well, and it's not in the weight bearing section of the hog, so it's going to be just a naturally more tender piece of meat, anyways. So exactly. I personally do baby back ribs at my place all the time, and we go through a lot, and it's just I figured out it's a lot better for me, and I love the consistency of a baby back rib more, and it's so subjective, right? Because everyone has their own, spare ribs, baby back, but it's just what I personally like, and I know Shawn, you guys do.
We do St. Louis.
You guys do St. Louis
in the
style
restaurant.
ribs.
Well, and different ones, both ribs are good. If you like barbecue, you're going to enjoy either one of them.
Did the president enjoy your barbecue?
Pardon?
Did the president enjoy your barbecue?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah? Which president was it?
There's been several things that's
Clinton?
happened out of that whole event. His chief security man, I did his wedding.
Oh, really?
Yeah, by way of mail.
No way. That
His
is
rehearsal
amazing.
dinner.
No way.
I did his rehearsal dinner.
Very cool.
And everybody always asks me, did he pay you?
Did he pay you? In advance?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
It's the same as, I couldn't donate the meal. I couldn't give the meal. I had to pay I had to charge for the meal.
Yeah.
I had to charge for the meal that, I couldn't give it. I couldn't show favoritism. I couldn't do all these things, the rules that they had to go by.
Did you get to go aboard Air Force One? Actually deliver the ribs onto the
I did not. I was at the restaurant
Uh-huh.
waiting for the president to show up.
Ah.
In the meanwhile, from the time that I left, the crowd left, and we left to go to the restaurant, he had gotten a call as they were going down the street. He had gotten a call that they were having problems and he needed to come back to Washington immediately, that they were having problems in Bosnia at that particular point in time. And of course, I always told him, whenever I got to talk to him, and I might add, he's a very impressive individual. I mean, his stature of him and everything, he's kind of like you. I mean, when you walk up, it's there.
Yeah.
And he was very cool. I mean, the things that went on, and when he was at the school, they didn't know whether they almost had it to where there wasn't going to be any more colleges. I mean, just everything. And he was there to dispel this myth, that he wasn't there to cut out the colleges, cut the kids where they couldn't afford it. This type of thing. But he was a very impressive individual, whether you happen to like him or not like him. He is very, if you talk to him, he's
Charismatic. Very charismatic.
Yes, very, very much so. I mean, he'd change your mind just through meeting him and talking with him.
I think that happens a lot when you get these high profile people. When you get in front of them, you can actually relate to them a lot more, and you can see that they're humans and they're just people, and you can talk to them. You're like, man, I actually like this person a lot. People think these high profile people are just untouchable. You don't know what you're going to get, and 9 times out of 10, they're just normal people. Good quality,
exactly.
Good quality people, man.
People don't understand that, there's certain people that they just got this. When he walked in the room, he came out of one room and walked into the room. My back was to him, but I knew that somebody of importance had showed up.
Sure.
You could
feel it.
You can feel it.
Feel the electricity.
For sure.
I mean, and there wasn't a loudspeaker saying, and here's the president, blah, blah, blah. He was great to talk to, nice to be around. And the guy that I did the wedding for, I can't remember, I apologize, I can't remember his name now. I talked to him quite a bit. And they really couldn't talk to you about a whole lot until they got ready to leave. And the security that came in, and he was one of them that was telling about how great it was. And he was there to give his life to the president if necessary. They learned how to walk in unison with his back to the president's back, going forward, going out into the crowd. He was there to take a bullet.
Well,
that was his job.
Mike, talk to me a little bit about how you got this barbecue bug, if you will. How'd you get so involved in barbecue? I mean, I know it's kind of something that a lot of us grow up with. Like, my dad kind of taught me, and at first I didn't like it because I'd always smell them. I'm like, oh my gosh, Dad, you always smell like smoke and this and that. And but it's infectious. How'd you get caught up in it?
Well, my dad was a barbecuer. He loved to barbecue. That's if he wasn't fishing, he was barbecuing.
Sure.
And it's just something that he did every Saturday. My dad was a salesman. He sold soap suds, palm olive, and cigarettes, this type of thing, to grocery stores. And his whole family had been involved in the selling world somewhere or another at one point in time down southeast Missouri. But every weekend he barbecued, and all the neighbors would bring over meat. And he would barbecue, and sometime that night, depending on what had happened to be, that they were cooking or wanting as to when it would happen to come off. And I remember as a kid waking up and smelling smoke. And my crib was next to the window, and I'd sit and holler until my mom would come in and open the window up or open the blinds up and be able to see my dad out there. Then I'd holler and scream to go outside. And I never did figure out, it took me years to figure out. I finally got it.
Sure.
That how come he put that wood pile just about over there to that wall, about 10, 12 foot away from where he was needing it. But it was my job to haul he built me a wagon or a wheelbarrow to haul the wood over to the fire. And of course, I don't want to get one over there, and it was a long trip for me. I'm gonna tell you, a little kid over there to haul this wood, and I wasn't smart enough to, talk him into putting it closer.
For sure.
But that was my job, was to haul the wood, And I'm gonna tell you, and of course the wagon was made out of orange crates, but I knew that we were going to get something good to eat.
Yeah.
And all the neighbors knew that they were going to get something good to eat. But it was a big deal,
Sure.
He passed away whenever I was young, and I always missed that. But my brothers and my uncle kind of took up they also barbecued and kind of took that up. And then whenever I became older, then I started barbecuing.
So it's just a family affair.
Yes.
Just get everyone together. And it's good to hear you guys talk about, too, wanting to do an event for your guys' town and stuff and kind of bring people in. It's something that Shawn and I are very passionate about as well. When we started doing our Spring Valley one, we had a thing, it was called the Santa Sophia Fair, and it was something that I went to when I was young, and then it went away. And it's just something now that we're doing this event, it's like we just want something for everyone to be proud of, everyone to be able to come to and be proud of and be excited about, and get everybody together and just hearing the story of, just that's basically what it is. It's just your family affair, getting everybody together to do it, bringing, your daughter in, and it's awesome to hear. I'm just really, really intrigued. So did you always like it?
No.
So honesty. We love it. We love honesty.
Were you kind of like me at the beginning?
No, I ran far and fast from all of this. I went away to journalism school in Missouri, and then I moved very briefly to Dallas and then to Boston. And I always worked in advertising, marketing, and PR jobs. But I would do little things. He would call and he would need a form or a logo or please write this for me. I always did little things. And in 2000, I got divorced, and I began spending more time back in Southern Illinois. And, sort of about that time, his star is rising more. And, I just started doing more and more in the business. And now it's, 24, 27. I do get to sleep a little bit, but.
Tell us about the sticky note.
The sticky note?
Yeah, one of the things I love about this book is that you guys dig so deep into the family.
I love that you read that.
I read all of it, and it touched my heart because
it's
the sticky note, the family. I mean, it reminds me of I hated the restaurant, growing up, but I'm so grateful that my grandfather made me work when I was a young boy, bus tables, wash dishes. But tell us about the sticky note and how it propelled, and also how it's come full circle with with
my children. Yes, exactly. So I was home, and he handed me this little Post-it note and said, "Would you call this person back for me?"
At what age?
This was in 2000.
Okay.
So not. I'm a grown up.
Sure.
And I called, and the woman said, "Oh, thanks for calling me back. I am writing a story for Martha Stewart Living Magazine about mail order barbecue. But
big deal.
But I called 3 weeks ago, and so I already wrote the story.
Oh.
And so I said, Daddy, give me those notes, and I will follow up, because we always call back, but it wasn't always on a timely basis, apparently.
Sure.
So I really started out sort of by fulfilling that PR function of just following up. And anytime someone called, I would make sure they got the recipe or the photo or the quote or whatever it was they needed to write their stories. And, we all know that following up is half the battle, or all the battle really in this game. The person who follows up the fastest early bird gets the worm. But, living in Boston, it's a fabulous place to live, and I was so grateful to raise my children there. But I also knew they were missing, a different aspect of growing up, or just a different way of growing up in the way I grew up. And it was important to me to bring them back to Southern Illinois and make sure they realize that other people live in different ways, because they're two very different worlds. And so, they came back a lot. And sometimes, they're really little and they're just really in the way. They're tagging along and helping seat people, or helping do all kinds of things.
Helping trying not to work,
right?
Because that's what I was doing.
No, they liked it.
Pretending I was working.
They enjoyed it, actually, but they weren't. They were in the way when they were really little.
Sure.
But then as they got older, they could do more tasks, and they filled a lot of magic dust bottles and all those things. But the first time I sent my son back to work by himself, he went and worked at the Springfield Fair, the Illinois State Fair in Springfield, which is about 3 hours from Murphysboro. And he is sitting there in his little Harry Potter glasses and his little polo shirt. And he's a real intellectual. This was not his idea of fun at all. But so he asked right off, he wanted to get the ground rules set. And he said, "Grampy Mike, what is our break schedule?" And my dad said, "Break?
Break schedule.
If you have a customer, you're not on break. But if you don't have a customer, you're on break." So a couple days go by, and he called me and he said, "Well, I'll have you know, I haven't eaten lunch since I've been here." And I said, "Well, Woody, if you are working in a barbecue stand and you cannot figure out how to eat lunch, I can't help you."
Right.
He thought he was going to get a lunch hour, and he would get to go to some other stand and buy some food to try.
That's hilarious.
So a few more days go by, and I get another call, and he said, "Well, Grampy Mike, I've discovered, is doing something illegal. And I said, really? What's happening? And he said, well, we're working 12 and 14-hour days, and it is my understanding that we're supposed to be getting time and a half for part of that. And I said, well, what he's doing that's illegal is that he's giving you cash at the end of the day. So if you would like to talk about giving 33% of that
pay your
to the
taxes,
government, we could talk about time and a half. And
That's actually a really good family wage. Some people don't get paid.
And I could hear his little voice.
Depends on the
I
family.
could hear his little mind worrying, and he said, well, this will be okay. So the next year comes around, and I said, now, if you don't want to have a job here locally, you're going to have to go back and work at the fair. He said, well, that'll be okay. I don't want a job where I have to pay taxes. So he very quickly figured out the American way. Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
I got a funny story about that too. I came in, I was fortunate to play football and play in the NFL for a little bit. And when I got done playing, I was doing life insurance, didn't like it. And I came into work with my dad at the butcher shop. It's 62 years now, but at the time, it was like our 50th anniversary, somewhere around there. And I remember doing stuff, and I came in, I was going to, just do everything. And he was sending people on break into lunch. And I said, everyone got done, and, thinking it's my turn now to go on break, and my name never came up. And I said, hey, Dad, when am I going to lunch? He goes, son, what's your last name? I said, Marso. He goes, Marsos don't take breaks. I said, okay. And that's just how it was. That's just what you did. We don't know. And I'm so happy that that's the way I learned, because now I don't know anything else, and I just work. And yeah, sure. Again, I own a grocery store. I can find food real quick and eat it and go and do whatever we do. But it's that mentality of, you don't work until you're tired. You work until you're finished with a job. So that's what we have to do all the time. We just keep working until the job's finished, and then you can figure it out. But there is no at 10 o'clock you're going to work, 11 o'clock you're going to get your break, and at 12 you're going to take your lunch. That doesn't happen with these types of businesses.
No.
Yeah.
What I love is that my son now works in New York City in the publishing magazine world. And early on, he called one day and he was complaining about a coworker, and he said, she leaves at the stroke of 5 o'clock, no matter if she has work still to do or not. Like, he was
shocked.
Could not
Just
believe that
completely
this
shocked.
person just walked out at 5. Yeah.
Isn't it funny? I mean, exactly what Derek says. You don't realize when your kids, even though as much as I hated going to the restaurant, I hated it. My grandfather was a medical doctor. The restaurant wasn't his primary focus, but I remember he would wake me up and I would get in the car and we would drive out to East County, San Diego, and all my friends were playing sports. They were all, hanging out, sleeping in. And I was driving with him and he goes, Shawn, do you see what's happening on the road? And I said, no, upset, cranky. And he's like, there's no cars on the road. And why is that? I don't know, Grandpa, why? Why is that? And he goes, it's because no one else is working, but we're going to be working today. It was something that just working and accomplishing something meant so much to him that had I not had those experiences, I wouldn't, when we're doing our 20-hour days for, putting on these barbecue events and, we're dead tired and we wake up, but it's that grind. It's that grind that you do, and then the reward that you get at the end. And it's not even a monetary reward. It's being able to talk to those teams after they've put everything in and they've put their families, and they're like thanking us for putting on the event, and we're thanking them for participating in the event. It's really, it comes full circle. And, your family has been doing things like this, and you're spreading barbecue, the gospel, all across the United States, and now all across the world. Talk about New York City. I love that.
Oh, it's cool.
That's really cool.
Yes, it is. It's been quite an experience to have an opportunity, to go to New York City, be involved with a very successful restaurant, and then also be involved into a very successful barbecue contest, or not really a contest.
An event. A celebration.
That is a celebration for all these. The question was, can you produce barbecue in New York? Everybody said you couldn't do it. You'd have to be in the South. It just wasn't barbecue area. Well, that's been proven wrong.
That's
for
awesome.
several years now, with all of the barbecue places that's been there and been very successful. It's still going on. And I love to go back. Would I want to live there? No. But at the same time, I love every minute that I am there during the barbecue, and the people that I've met there over a period of years. It's been incredible.
Tell us about how Danny Meyer, how did this whole project happen, with the restaurant as well as the contest?
Well, way back when, we have some great friends who are barbecue contest judges named Pat Daly and Tom Vertel. And they are Tony Award-winning Broadway producers of The Producers and
wow.
Hairspray, among other
Very cool.
major hits. But they are love barbecue. And Pat actually wrote an essay. The Jack Daniels, way back when, was looking for judges. And you could write an essay and say why you wanted to be a judge. And so she wrote an essay about Tom and his love for barbecue and that he needed to be a judge, and he was chosen. And that's when he met my dad, and they became friends. And they just went on this quest to somehow get him to New York City. They called other restaurateurs, Alfred Portali, who had the American Bar and Grill. Would you be interested in having a barbecue restaurant? They searched high and low for somebody who wanted to be in barbecue. And one of their producer friends and partners, his name is Rocco Landisman, and he's from St. Louis. And Rocco said, I have this guy I know from growing up named Danny Meyer, and he owns Union Square Cafe. Yeah. He's about to open Gramercy Tavern, just opened Gramercy Tavern, and, maybe he would be interested. So Danny is a big Cardinals fan, and they invited him over to watch a Cardinals game, and they flew in meat and, ribs and beans and all barbecue, and just talked to him about Mike and this barbecue. And he was intrigued, and he said, wow, if this was, frozen and shipped here and tastes like this, I wonder what it tastes like at the source. And at that time, he was getting ready to open 11 Madison Park in Tabla. And so he was not really looking, to do another restaurant right away, but he was very intrigued. And he and Michael Romano, who at that time was the executive chef at Union Square Cafe, came on a visit, kind of a surreptitious visit, and ate the barbecue and enjoyed it, and then, asked to talk to him and meet and learn what was happening. After that, they went all over the country and tried barbecue everywhere, just a real exploratory thing. And I really feel like he's the first person who started doing that kind of field work. People didn't do that. Now it's a very big thing to take a barbecue pilgrimage, and food tourism is so huge, but
sure.
That was not really a thing. Barbecue was not a food group to most people at that time. But they came back and said, we've been everywhere. We really like your barbecue. Would you be interested in helping us? And so that, was a 2-year journey of teaching, training. They spent a lot of time in Murphysboro working on our pits and learning things. And then, of course, there was all the education of getting, a barbecue pit installed in New York City and vented up 15 stories.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
And then living there, really, Mike lived there for about 6 weeks as it was opening, so he could be there every day. And
wow.
So he lived in a hotel around the corner, and he had his own dry cleaner. And to this day, that dry cleaner, when they see him go by in the shirt with the Apple Man on the back, they cleaned those shirts for him for 6 weeks.
That's great.
They remember him.
That's great. And what made you want to go into partnership in this venture? Because it's really difficult when you've done something successful for yourself and then to venture out and to do something different.
It was one of those situations that to me it was a challenge. I had no clue and didn't know how I would ever be able to have the opportunity to do something like that. And I just thought I got to do it. It was a challenge to me, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to go to New York and put in a restaurant, and didn't intend to. That wasn't my cup of tea. But to go there on the conditions that I went, it was awesome.
It was a win-win. Win-win for everybody.
Right. It was incredible. To be, and also the people that were involved in being able to have the opportunity. And Danny Meyer is just an incredible individual. his mind and the way he thinks and the way he talks to people and the way he treats people, it's incredible. It's did anybody ever think, or did he even ever think that he'd be doing and, building this Shake Shack, for example? I was there at the same time he was, putting the Shake Shack in. And I mean, it was a great concept, but nobody ever thought it was going to be what it is.
Yeah, a publicly traded
Unbelievable.
company. Exactly.
Unbelievable. I mean,
Yes,
what
it
he's
is.
done as a restaurateur is,
Yes.
I mean, we admire it obviously from afar, all the books
Sure.
he's put out and having hospitality in your DNA. We talk about having a hospitality blood type, but really
Be positive.
it's be positive. If you're not positive, if you're not doing the things that it's service, what we do and what we're so fortunate to do and have the gifts to do is to be able to have a place where people can come and they can feel like family and they become family.
He made you feel this way. I mean, I've studied him pretty hard, and he's sincere. He's what you see is what you get.
Right.
And he'll know each and every person that works there, and he'll know something about them. It all becomes a family in that aspect, and he's still that same way today.
Yeah.
You would never really realize who he is, by his actions. Like, here I am, I'm somebody.
Right.
It's not that way.
Yeah. I think that's important for people to understand too.
Pardon?
I think that's really important for people to understand that you can learn a lot about people if you just watch them and see how they treat others. And you can really get a grasp of who they are. For me, I know Shawn as well, I need to make sure that I'm very open with my employees and that I invested in them as much as they're invested in me, because it has to be a win-win situation. And, for me, I don't pay any of my employees minimum wage. I pay them all over minimum wage. I try to do whatever I can. I don't need to retire tomorrow. I want to make sure that they're comfortable, and it's more important for everybody that works for me to have a good life than it is for me to make an extra $50,000 a year. I want to do whatever I can, and it's important for people to know that when you're going into business, you can't go into it for the wrong reasons. And if you're only going into it for a monetary reason, you're probably going to fail. And you're probably going to fail pretty quick too, because it's not going to work, because people aren't going to want to work for you. They're going to end up stealing from you. They're going to see right through you. So to be just very authentic and be who you are and put yourself out there and be vulnerable, it's the rewards are far greater than anything else.
Well, it's one of those things that I can tell you that the people that has worked with Danny and he's been involved with in this type of thing, they would take the bullet.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Fall on the sword.
They got his back.
Right.
And a very fair individual.
Yeah.
But yet he's very tough to work for, as far as,
Standards. He has standards.
Yes.
Yeah. Your quality standards, everything revolves around the guest. And if you don't give the guest an incredible experience, then there is no business.
You need to tell the story. You tell us much better about Jeffrey. Your friend Jeffrey Steingarten.
Yes. Which one? Which story?
Well, just how Jeffrey is, how persistent he is, and this is probably my favorite story.
I don't know which one you mean.
Well, just about him as a whole, calling and wanting to get ribs and wanting to
Oh, okay.
showing up at a barbecue contest
Yes,
for
okay.
several years in a row.
Sounds like I
before
like this guy.
Before you got him.
Yeah. So Jeffrey Steingarten has become a great friend, and he is such an interesting individual. But he was a celebrity judge at Memphis in May, the first year that Apple City won, and he thought he ate the very best ribs on the planet as a judge. And when he heard that none of his teams won or placed, he had to taste what really did win. And so
What could be that much better
than what
these,
I just
right?
had, exactly. And so he was, came over to Apple City BBQ, and of course they had been mobbed and all the food had been eaten. After you win, everything you have is gone because everybody comes to your tent and wants to try it. And so Mike promised him some ribs, And he didn't get them to him quite quick enough. And so he called multiple times, like, when am I getting these ribs? When am I getting these ribs? And, he finally did. And he actually wrote about that story in Vogue.
Oh, cool.
And he writes about answering the door in his bathrobe and
cool.
These ribs are delivered. And he sits down and heats them and eats them, and how wonderful they are. And that story appeared in 1994 in Vogue. And that the day that it appeared, obviously Mike does not have a subscription to Vogue, and he really didn't know who Jeffrey Steingarten was.
Sure.
To be honest with you, Vogue did not mean that much to him, but he got a phone call from someone who said, "I am in the airport in Memphis, and I'm reading about your ribs in Vogue magazine, and I want to know how I could get some." And he said, "Well, right now it's the DuQuoin State Fair, and I'm cooking all these ribs, but I'm taking them to the fair. But call back next week and I'll try to get you some." And what's your name? And the guy said, "Well, I'm George Wendt." He said, "I'm Norm on Cheers." And he wasn't saying it to be like, "This is who I am."
Right?
No,
Sure.
just like, "This is who I am."
Wow.
So the fair lasts 10 days and it's going on, and George called back frequently. And finally, Mike was in the restaurant one night and George called. And they're like, "Oh my God, please talk to this guy. He's been calling constantly." And so he made arrangements. He was going to get these ribs out in a few days to him. And he said, "But I just have 2 favors to ask of you. When you get them, you have to call and tell me if you like them. And if you are ever in Southern Illinois, I want you to come and sit at our bar." So in our restaurant, we have this bar that came out of a speakeasy. May have been Al Capone's, I don't know.
Right.
But, people love to just belly up to the bar, and it's just steeped in history.
Cool.
And so we wanted Norm to come and sit at our bar, which
Yeah.
has not
absolutely.
happened. He still needs to get there. But he said, absolutely. And so the ribs are shipped, and a couple days later, we get this phone call, and there's lots of cheering, and people are screaming in the background, "We love your ribs." And he loved it. And when I was writing Peace, Love, and Barbecue, I wrote about that story. And so I just wanted to call and fact check with him. And, it's quite a process to figure out how to get to a Hollywood person. And, I had a friend who found his agent who, showed him the manuscript, and he called me and he said, "Wow, he said, I don't remember." Like, he was afraid I was making him sound pretentious by announcing his name. And I assured him I was not. But, every now and then we do still ship him ribs.
That's
which is
awesome.
kind of fun. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Very cool. That's really
one of the
really
things
cool.
I love about Praise the Lord and your first book. In the books, obviously the recipes are absolutely incredible. It's just the fact that you guys are sharing those recipes with the world is such a treasure, because you've taken so much time to go over not just barbecue, but sides and desserts and cocktails. But I'm huge on stories, and I love the.
Everyone loves the stories.
I love the Playboy story about the phone calls about your Sunday sermon.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little
my
bit about
goodness,
that?
Yes.
This is another fantastic voicemail story.
Yes. So we were fortunate enough to be named Top 10 Barbecue in Playboy. We needed to have a little fun with that.
Sure.
And this is when the Justin Timberlake Bringing Sexy Back song was out. So one of our servers put up this great billboard that said, "We're bringing Sexy Rack."
Oh, I love
And just a play on words. And it said Top 10 Playboy magazine. And instantly this woman started calling. And she never called during the day. She would call at night and leave these voicemails that, 2 minutes is your message amount of time. And then she would call back and keep finishing the message.
Oh, she'd wear it out.
Wear it out. Wear it out.
Jeez.
And you were promoting pornography, and and she just went on and on and on. "I want to know what Mike Mills is going to do about this." And we're like, "Well, Mike Mills is going to take all the publicity he can get. That's what's going to happen here."
That's exactly.
So,
He's going to open that magazine right up.
so exactly, we're thrilled. So finally, one of our managers, she did start calling the restaurant. So she was calling the office and leaving the voicemails, but she did start calling the restaurant. And we have just the sweetest manager. His name was Cale. And he was like, "I don't know what to do or what to say." And I had about had it with her. And I said, "Cale, you need to tell her, first of all, I don't know why she thinks we're not Christians. You need to tell her that our minister said that we should look at this as a gift from God. This is publicity that is keeping us in business. Therefore, we're able to employ people in this town. It's a full economic circle is happening here, and we should look at it as a gift."
Yep.
And so he told her that the next time she called, and that woman did not skip a beat. She said, "I want to have the name of that minister."
Give me the name of the minister.
Wow.
That is so amazing. So tell us about, just this is 2 books now. What's happened in these last 2, having this second book come out and, the journey, how's it been received by the family?
Gosh, well, a lot has happened. The second book is harder, and I feel, maybe there was just pressure of living up to the first book, and I wanted it to be different, and, I felt like I just gave it my all the first time around, and so it took me a while to figure out how to make this book, different and have a reason to have a second book, and so I finally, figured out how I wanted to do that and what I would do to make it different. And what I'm really proud of in this book is the chapter about meat. And most cookbooks say, start this fire and cook until, an internal temperature of 185 degrees. But this one really tells you what to do 30 minutes in, an hour in, check it here. This is what you're looking for. So really excruciatingly painstaking steps for cooking the barbecue, and there's the rules of smoke and all the things that, you have to learn over time. So I'm really proud of that chapter in particular, but also just, the stories behind all of the recipes. Every recipe has a reason for being or some sort of story. And then, of course, I love the opportunity to do the cocktails and sort of bring in a little more entertaining type things. And in this book, the first book was all black and white pictures of people. It was more about the people. And it's certainly good recipes, but the focus was on the people. And so here the focus is really more on the food and, styling. There's the first book, I took all the pictures and they were all black and white.
Sure.
And now, I have a stylist and a photographer, but it was important to me to have them all be very personal. And so I'm using, my silver collection and
cool.
My grandmother's china, and everything that you see in there, has some sort of, I didn't go to a prop house and
That's cool.
rent all those things. So it's all very personal. And I like, most people won't even notice those things, but I notice them. And
I think a lot of people, you'd be surprised, will notice those things, because that's what makes this so good, is because you can feel the authenticity of the
whether
book,
they
and
know
what
it.
it's really bringing into it. It's like, man, whether they understand it or not, you can feel, it's a feel. Right, when you're feeling something, just like a brisket. Sometimes you can't. A brisket might be done a little early. It's the feel of it, and it's the same way with your book. It's the feel of when you start reading it. It grabs you, and you know that it's just a genuine book that you can actually get. Like, I have my pitmaster at my shop, and I'm like, read it, understand it, because this is what it's about, is understanding different recipes and knowing what people go through and the stories. And that's what's so cool about this stuff, that you're so authentic about it and you're so open. The transparency in that is huge. And I think that's what people lack a lot of times. It's just everyone wants to hold everything so close, right?
Right.
And it's like, well, that's not what it's about. It's about sharing, right? Yeah. Sharing's caring. It's corny, but it's what it is. It's like, we can all make good food. Let's all do it together, and then it will bring everybody together. So, I mean, I just thank you guys for being vulnerable and doing that, because it really means a lot to guys like Shawn and I that read these things and can get so much out of them, because it's not every day that you see this. So from the depths of our heart, we want to thank you guys.
Well, thank you. We really wanted that. I consider this book a love letter. It's like a love letter to our family, to our town, to the barbecue world. You're just sort of really putting it out there, and there's so many layers, to what makes 17th Street. And it is about, Murphysboro is a character in this book. It plays a huge role in the book, and so many things wouldn't have happened if we didn't live in the type of town that we live in. And we certainly, speaking of money, could have made lots more money in this world had we lived in a more urban area or a more thriving area, but instead we live where we live, and it is the official barbecue capital of Illinois, which we're really proud of. There has been a history of barbecue since the early 1900s in Murphysboro, and we have a great T-shirt that lists all the barbecue restaurants and when they started.
Nice.
On the back of it, and it's really a cool thing. And it's funny, it's the only thing the Illinois legislature has been able to agree on And even all those people in Chicago who think they have some barbecue.
Leave it to barbecue.
They agree that Murphysboro is the official barbecue capital. So we're really
that is awesome.
Proud of that.
Well, we really appreciate your time. Before we get you out of here, just tell us a little bit about National Barbecue Association and the conference here and why it's important for people to be members, to participate, and to get involved.
Well, we have been members really since the beginning. There were a few earlier years that we didn't really come to the convention quite as much, but Mike was the president in 2000. I wish I could tell you what year. 8, maybe. No, it was before that. It was like maybe 2002 or 2003, because some of the people I wrote about in Peace, Love, and Barbecue I did meet through NBBQA, and I think you get what you give in a group like this. And when you come and you meet people and everybody has a story and everybody is from a different area, but you're all united by this one common cause and by the love of barbecue. And it becomes a family reunion. You come back year after year and you try to get new friends to come because you're so excited about, what there is, what's offered here, and how it can impact somebody's life. So it's really been, important to our success, and it's been something that we feel really strongly about and very committed to.
Yeah, I think one of the things we love about it is it brings so many different aspects of the business of barbecue, from sauce to grill manufacturers to people that own restaurants, people that are in catering, people that are in vending. One of the things that we're so fortunate with this podcast is people reach out from all over the globe that want to get into barbecue, and they want to start selling at their local fair, or they want to, start a catering business because people love their barbecue. Some of the things that we get asked, just recently, one of our social shout outs this week is going out to Gulf Coast Barbecue, and he sent us a direct message on Instagram just asking about menu costing, and some of those things that you learn in business are very difficult. Mm-hmm. And any advice that you would have as far as how do you price barbecue to sell?
Our advice?
Your advice.
Your advice. Well, we're going through a big menu repricing right now, so this is a very fresh subject for us. But the whole know your food cost and triple it is really doesn't work anymore. You will go broke doing that. So not only do you have to know your food cost, but you also have to know what your expenses are and what your market will bear. So in our area, we are the most expensive barbecue, and we want to be the most expensive barbecue. Mike will say all the time, well, only he knows what his barbecue is worth. And we know what ours is worth. So that's my advice.
So where can people find you on social?
People can find us at 17th Street BBQ, and on all Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We also do have an OnCue Hospitality page. We offer 3 barbecue classes a year, and we do some consulting, but I try to push people toward the classes because that's a little more economical. But we have a business of barbecue class it's about half full right now, that's coming up April 9th and 10th. That class is great for people who are either they're in the business and they want to see what we do at 17th Street. And you could come to a class and learn just one tip or trick that can totally transform your business. Or they're people who want to be in the business in some way. They're really all levels who come to the class, and it's really great. We have 3 different types of classes each year. And you can find us, our 17th Street page obviously talks a lot about the restaurant, but then really we talk about all things barbecue.
Perfect. Well, everything we do talk about today, we'll put links into the show notes for this episode. And, for Derek and I, this is birthday boy over here.
Is it your birthday?
It is.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
He's expecting his 3rd son, and I have him out in Texas. He's taking the time to come and podcast with, Corey, myself, my wife, my son. But happy birthday to you, Derek.
Thank you.
You might have to hop on a plane and get to that.
Yeah. It's getting close.
It's getting close. It is.
30 weeks.
But barbecue is family, barbecue is sharing, and we're just so honored that you guys could take a little bit of time before NBBQA, IMBBQ 2018 Stockyards. I mean, this is what it's all about. I mean, we're so fortunate that we're able to meet you and you were able to share your 17th Street story, and we hope that people buy the book, that they follow on social, because those
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Yes.
Because those
So
Sunday
good.
sermons on Instagram, they make my week. Honestly,
thank
they
you.
make my week. I don't know
Thank
who
you.
puts them up, but keep putting them up, because we absolutely love it. So thank you.
Thank you
for
so much.
Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Shawn and Derek, and we just really want to thank you for listening to the podcast. It means the world to us. We'd like you to go check out behindthesmokemedia.com. That's our website where we have barbecue resources for you to help build your barbecue business. We also have events listed, so anything that's happening in the West Coast barbecue movement, anything that's going on, we want you to go check that out so you can learn more and get involved. We also have show notes from all the episodes, so anything we talked about in the episodes, you can find detailed show notes there. Plus, you can just get in touch with us. It's important that we're here as a resource for you. So please reach out. Let us know how Derek and I can help you with your barbecue journey. Get involved, stay curious, and follow us on social at Barbecue War Stories. We'll talk to you soon.